answered the phone when the landlord called, asked me, was my father home? And I said, no. He said, well, who am I speaking with? And I said, you're speaking with his son. He said, well, tell your dad you all have 30 days to move. When I was homeless, I didn't know it was going to be an off and on 3.5-year battle, 3.5-year battle, 3.5-year battle. Hi, I'm Kelvin Lassiter, Income Policy Analyst with the National Coalition for the Homeless.
Tell me about the moment in your life when you became homeless.
There was a couple of bouts with homelessness. The first one was when my parents' house was foreclosed on during my senior year in high school. I graduated from high school a few months later, and we got an eviction notice from the landlord, so we didn't have to move right away because the person who bought our house, wanted to use it as rental property and just decided to keep us in our house. And unfortunately, the payments didn't get made. Answered the phone when the landlord called, and it was during the summer of 1982. And he's asked me, was my father home? And I said, no. He said, well, who am I speaking with? And I said, you're speaking with his son. He said, well, tell your dad you all have 30 days to move. And we had to do something in that summer that's called couch surfing, where you go stay with extended family or relatives, and you may or may not have a bed to sleep on. And it's a prevention of homelessness, but you're still classified as being homeless because your name is not on that lease or mortgage.
And how was that first night for you?
Well, these were people I grew up with and people I knew, so it just was kind of weird in a sense, because the difference was we weren't going back to a house that we lived.
And how did that make you feel?
Empty, because the family tradition as I knew it was no longer going to be. And I went to stay one place. My sister and my mother went to stay with cousins, and to this day I don't know where my father went to stay. I figured it was going to work out one way or the other. Just so happened that my mother applied to 11 different rental apartment complexes before somebody took a chance on her and said yes.
And tell me about going to school while this is happening.
Oh, it was pretty tough. We already were having problems. My parents were having problems before the foreclosure took place, but the foreclosure just actually magnified what was already going on. It was kind of, so to speak, the nail in the coffin for my parents' marriage. It was never the same after the foreclosure, and then after the eviction took place. My parents did not get back together officially. My father did have to take over raising my sister. We're 10 years apart. And my mother had breast cancer through all of this. And her condition actually took a turn for the worse in those later years. In order to exit homelessness, it's going to take a community, whether that's homeless advocates.
They're homeless because we live in a country that does not care.
People who are homeless on the streets.
During the nighttime, people get killed.
Family members who care about you, or total strangers who just care about humanity.